buyers? Where are the buyers are being smart, right? I get it. We're seeing homes sit on market a little bit longer. Not necessarily in the Bay Area, especially Santa Clara County, but nationwide, we're seeing home sales dip. The number of home sales. Prices are staying fairly moderate, at least a little bit higher than what have you, but the number of sales have consistently gone down month over month. We'll talk about that in a second. Where are the buyers? Well, you can talk about the interest rates. You can talk about the propaganda that we see on both sides of the news networks, right? Tariffs bad, tariffs good, recession this, recession that. It doesn't matter, because if we go into a recession or not, prices will continue to go up for housing. Remember that. Right now, there's a glut of inventory, and some say it's over 500,000 more sellers than there are buyers across the states. Not necessarily so in the Bay Area, in Santa Clara County, even Blossom Valley or Almaden. Here's a quick snapshot, right? We're seeing a slight decline all over the U.S. in number of sales, not the actual prices, right? And this comes from Stephen Yoon, who is the long-lived NAR economist. Lawrence Yoon, chief economist of the National Association of Realtors. He's been around for decades, I feel like. Regional breakdown, where it matters most for us is Midwest. Pending sales dropped 5% from March, but we're still up 2.2 since 2024. Okay, what does that mean? It means we're plateauing. We're not seeing huge increase in the volume of sales, right? And the headline of my video is this right here from Realty Times. U.S. housing market has nearly 500,000 more sellers than buyers, the most on record. That will likely cause home prices to fall. Well, that's Chicken Little, right? And yes, when there's more homes for sale versus the number of demand where buyers, then prices tend to fall. That's economy 101, right? I mean, it's good. It's actually good. I've been telling you this for the last few years, right? It's expensive to buy a home. These are the reasons why buyers are holding out. It's expensive to buy a home. Housing affordability is through the roof. A lot of people can't afford to buy a house, especially in Santa Clara County. $2 million homes, that's the average, right? We don't know if we're going to go into a recession, and rates are continuously more expensive, or continues to be expensive, 7% on average, right? You can buy points down. We talk about that on Thursdays. Takeaways for sellers is time is not on their side. Be aggressive in pricing, list it low, bring in the buyers, let the buyers hit the market, right? If your house is worth $1.6 million, drop it to 1.5, bring in the buyers, it will get up to where it needs to be. There will be smart agents that write offers based on what the comps show and what the value is. And if you have 2 or 3 or 4 offers, then you can create the tempo, you can create the values for it, right? Takeaway for buyers. Even in a hot market, I would say hold on and wait for the houses that have been on market 30, 40, 50, 90 days. Those are ripe for the picking. And there's some sellers that will refuse to lower their price. So get into the mindset of find the right houses for you, right offers and right offers and right offers that make sense to you. History shows that home prices cool when sellers outnumber buyers. That's economy 101, right? Miami and West Palm Beach are the strongest buyers market, with nearly 3 times more sellers than buyers. Okay, what is the definition of a buyer's market? Is when homes stay on market over 6 months. And we'll see in a minute that we're nowhere near it here in the Bay Area. Most home sellers are transitioning to another house, whether it's empty nest, relocation. I finally need to get the house that I need. I need to buy a bigger house for my kids. I'm outgrowing my house. They need to buy another house, right? Not I'm older and a majority of my business is older folks moving into retirement communities, that kind of thing. But I wouldn't say majority. Part of my sellers are moving into retirement communities. When you sell in a cool market, it's actually smarter. Yes, you get a smaller sales price, a lower sales price, but that means also lower selling costs. You pay me less, you pay Uncle Sam less, you pay the escrow company less, right? So less is better, in my opinion, right? And right now we're at the precipice of either a dip or an increase, and we don't know what's going to happen, right? But when you go on the buy side, it's actually a good thing because there's less competition. On my open house this weekend, we had 7 and 9 buyers come through, but I think a majority of those came through from another house that was across the street. Right? So here's the thing: buyers get a lot of choices. They're being picky right now. They're willing to wait. They're willing to hold out. They know it's not the hot market it was 4 or 5 years ago where they had to put $400,000 over list price. That just doesn't happen anymore. Right? You can ask for contingencies. You can ask for concessions. You can ask for a lower price. You have to be able to negotiate that, right? You don't have to worry about appraisal gap. You don't pay a premium. You can ask for repairs. You can ask for lower closing. And then you also have lower closing costs and lower property taxes. So all in all, it's actually a better time to move. I'm working on a house right now in Gilroy, and they're buying a bigger house in Gilroy because they have a bigger family and it's time for them to move. And they're going from a smaller home, 2,000 square foot home, to a 2,500 square foot home in a community that they want, where their friends are, where their children go to school. So it just makes sense right now. They've already hit the increase in market. They're seeing the value of their home decrease a little bit. They're in contract with another house. So their motivation is, let's move this out. I've been working with them for years to do this. So it's a great time to sell and buy. Yes, you're not going to get 400,000. That's an ego move, right? The smart move, financially smart move, is to sell and move in a cool market. I've said. Cupertino House of the Week, Far Lap Drive, not my listing. $4 million for a 5-bedroom, 3-bed, 3 full bath home, 2,700 square feet, built in 1964. I can almost guarantee you that this has been, added on. Well, no, you know what? I've been in homes in this area. So, yeah, I don't know. Let's take a look. Little ranch house, updated. Ooh, those are yellow. Those lights are yellow. Oof. Lots of kitchen. Yeah, so look, they updated their house as they needed to, over time. I don't see this as a flip. I see this as something where somebody enjoyed it over their years. And this house backs into the creek, which is nice. And they have retaining walls. So if it ever does flood, you're somewhat protected. But yeah, so you can see how this whole house was originally like 3-bedroom. And then they added on. Yeah. So nice. It's a nice house. This is a beautiful house worth $4 million. That's up to the buyer. Willow Glen Home of the Week is Coolidge Ave, not my listing. $2.2 million, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,800 square feet, built in 1942. And it is walking distance to Lincoln Ave, which is their downtown. And very modest, original. I wouldn't say original. This house was probably updated in the 90s or the early 2000s. White appliances. So it's a very modest house, but there's a lot of stuff that you can do to it. This is smart. They take the screens off and park them off while the house sells, because that increases your light in each room by about 5 to 10%. And every time I tell you about how to stage a house, I tell you bright and airy. That 5 and 10% increase in light actually makes a huge difference. So you see all the screens are off. That's great. That's smart. Very smart of them to do that. Luxury home of the week, list price decrease. You can be a market maker, but if you think your house isn't going to sell after 100 days, the market's spoken, right? If you show a list price decrease, it shows a weakness in your strategy, and the vultures will come in. This means this house is going to sell for $20 or $21 million. I wish it was my listing. But this is a 6-bedroom, 7 and 2.5 baths, 11,000 square foot mansion built in 2012. And you can say this is what my house is worth. This is what I refinanced it at, or what have you. I have an appraisal. It doesn't matter. It's what the buyers are willing to pay for it. So there's some agents out there saying, well, I can get an appraisal. I can tell people that's what it's worth. Well, it doesn't matter what an appraiser says it's worth. He's not buying it. He's telling you what the comps are for the area. But if the market is dried up, or the house is on market 100 days, like this one, gorgeous. Don't get me, look at this, it's beautiful, right? But it's worth $20 to $25 million. It's worth what a buyer is coming in and saying they're willing to pay. So keep that in mind. All right, year to dates, the 12 Bay Area County sales report. Santa Clara is still going strong. We flipped over 3,000 homes sold, put on market, or closed. We closed 177. In contrast, I want to point out San Benito, 2 closings last week, 170 homes in San Benito County. That's our neighboring county. Granted, they're working on Highway 25, to widen it up and make it better. They're developing homes right now. But right now, there's only 2 homes that have sold in that county versus 177. Alameda County had 190 homes closed last week, right? The sales volume right now is, oh, that's not right. I didn't change those. Let me change this real quick. Data, sort, range. Editor, you need to cut this out real quick. Must be Monday. Two more. Okay. Yeah, we're at $7.6 billion in sale. We're at $7.6 billion in sales volume year to date, compared to San Benito, 142 million, and Alameda, 4 billion. San Mateo is half of what we're at. And here's the thing, right? We're a high volume county, and we have the numbers to match it. 2.4 million average sales price versus 2.6. And the median prices are still about $2 million, right? Santa Clara County beat out San Mateo by $10,000. And the list price to sales price ratio is about 106% when priced right. Remember, if you have your house on market over 30 days, that means pricing is the one thing you can throw marketing at it. You can throw $10 million at advertising. But if a buyer is not coming in and looking at the house saying, I'm going to pay that price, they're not going to pay that price. Listings, number of listings, we have had 5,500. Plus or minus, no, that's wrong. I got to change that up a little bit. And number in contract. So what I do want to point out though is months of inventory. May final numbers have come drastically down, and we're looking at still 1.9 months of inventory. That means if we stop putting new houses on the market, we would run out of houses to sell in 2 months, right? It's the same thing with Blossom Valley. I track Blossom Valley because that's where I live. 2.2 months. It jumped up quite a bit from 1.6, but the market's wonky in micro markets. And don't look at Santa Clara on the whole. You have to dig down deep, not just to your area, but your zip code in your 1 mile radius when you're pricing out your house. Now understand, when you price out your house, a buyer's not just going to look at your house and the 5 or 6 comps that you're looking at. They just don't do that. They're looking at it from a different mindset, right? They're looking at 70, 80 different houses online, going yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, and then they teeter it down and they bring it down to 30 or 40, and then they decide to go see 5 or 10 at the time. How do we get those buyers to come and choose your house to be the right one? Well, they're looking at houses from overpriced to a massive immaculate condition, meticulously upgraded, everything and priced right, to houses that are in original condition and maybe priced a little too high. And they know, and they're not looking just at your house in your 1 mile radius. They're looking at all the houses that make sense to them. And it could be 10 different zip codes. It could be 3 to 4 different cities. It could be 2 different counties. So they're looking at a massive amount of different homes, and they're going to travel 50, 60, 70 miles in a day to go look at open houses. And they're going to compare your house to everything else. And if your house sits on market, that means the buyers have seen your house either online or in person and made a decision that there's a better house for them to buy. Keep that in mind. Right? Pricing is very, very important. Again, you could spend $10 million marketing it, advertising it, throwing it out there to the world, but if you're not getting traffic, if you're not getting showings, if you're not getting a huge number of people coming in and looking at your house over an open house weekend, price is what is holding back the sale of your house. Enough said. All right, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. I'm Vito with Avatano.